So the other day, I saw a cartoon. Which is more important, asked Big Panda, the journey or the destination? The company, said Tiny Dragon. The company. I've heard that most people will tell you that what matters most about whether or not you like your job isn't the job, but the people you work with. Do you think that's true? Does that fit your experience? Is it the company that matters the most? I wonder if your experience of the last year and a half makes a difference in how you might respond to that question. The pandemic has made it obvious to us how connected we are to one another. If we were not, a virus would not be able to move between us. And because we're now such a global community, a virus that is virulent in China or Brazil matters to people who are living in Australia or Canada. We connect with one another around the globe. And of course, in an attempt to slow that virus's movement, we've been limiting our connections in a lot of different ways. In an effort to be good global citizens, we've given up some of our connections with friends and with loved ones, at least in person. Now, technology has helped, some anyway. Things like social media and electronic communication and FaceTime and Messenger and Zoom have allowed people to connect in ways they really never have before. So some people are connecting via distance in amazing ways. We've had some people log into Zoom, our Zoom church from across the country. But for others, technology kind of lacks something by way of tangible, honest connection. Greg Slayton, who's a CEO in Silicon Valley, describes how advances in technology have impacted his relationships. He says that the sense of isolation becomes a curse of 10,000 acquaintances. You've got lots of people to spend time with and communicate with, but no one to talk to when things go really bad. You see, it's always been true that we show people what we want them to see. But you see, it's easier to hide online, isn't it? If you fall asleep right now while you're sitting in your pew, I might notice. I might not, but I might. If your screen is off right now, I have no idea whether you are paying attention or not at all. And technology has not been able to replace holding your loved one's hand in the hospital. It has not been able to replace the joy of dancing with friends at a party. And I suspect that we won't know for quite a long time what the social effect has been on us as we have been isolating ourselves. I do think that habits are forming among us, inviting us to stay home more, be more resistant to going out and participating, to being with the people, which, is important as we once again try to slow the curve of that fourth wave so that our health system can keep up. We know we need to take actions that keep other parts of our body healthy. So that's important. But we also know that, like Lego, we were created for connection. We know that life works better when we maintain connection with others. The Bible revisits this theme over and over and over again, from start to finish. The very first stories in the book of Genesis start off saying it's not good for humans to go through life alone. The predominant theme of the Bible is a God of love. Love of God, love of neighbor. Today's reading from Ecclesiastes talks about how people can lift one another up, keep each other warm, prevail through difficulty. And the Bible said this thousands and thousands of years ago, and science has finally caught up and bears that out. Relationships are important in helping us ward off depression boost our immune systems, lower our cholesterol, increase the odds of surviving with coronary disease, keep stress hormones in check. And this is not whether or not you're married. This is about having different kinds of relationships and circles of support and care around you. It's about a sense of community. Dozens of top medical studies bear this out. The thing that matters most to your health and well-being are people in your life. What's more, research is showing that you can actually increase your life expectancy by having good friends. We owe to the American psychologist, Dr. Bruce Alexander, the understanding that addiction even is far more than any drug. Alexander had experiments in the 1970s that have come to be called the rat park. So researchers had already proved that when rats were placed in a cage all by themselves with no other community of rats and offered 2 water bottles, one filled with water and one filled with heroin or cocaine, the rats would repeatedly drink from the drug-laced bottles until they overdosed and died. Like pigeons pressing a pleasure lever, they were relentless till their bodies and brains were overcome and they died. But Alexander wondered, is this about the drugs, or might it be related to the setting they were in? And so to test this, he put the rats in rat parks, where they were among others and free to roam and play and socialize and have sex and just be with other rats. And they were given the same access to the same 2 types of drug-laced bottles. And when in the rat park, they remarkably preferred the plain water. Even when they did imbibe from the drug-filled bottle, they did so intermittently, not obsessively. They never overdosed. For rats, a social community beat the power of drugs. So social community matters. And during these days, when we are still mostly staying physically apart, how is the state of your social community? What are the connections that you are longing for? What are the connections that you need to make or enhance or develop for your own health or well-being? Or perhaps you already have the 10,000 acquaintances and you need to gently let some of that go so you can make a real connection here or there. I wonder if over the last many months, you have discovered anything about which connections are truly important to you. I'm a little apprehensive that perhaps I haven't noticed what I'm missing because I've been distracted by everything else new around us. Interestingly, it was just last evening, a friend started texting me, reminding me about parties we have held and hosted together over time. Ah, parties, she said. I miss them. The nursery school, the Portage Ukrainian Nursery School, decided to put the effort in to hold a Western fun fair yesterday in our parking lot here at the church. And trying to figure out how to do it in a way that honored all of the restrictions and kept everyone COVID safe was no picnic. And at 9 o'clock in the morning, the organizers were lamenting everything that could not be done. And that wasn't easy. That wasn't working. It was dumb. It wasn't working. It was wrecked. Why had they bothered? It was going to be a complete disaster. And about 12:30, the director, Lori, came kind of running into the church. She unlocked the door and came in and said, Julie, you have to come see. We have animals. It's so joyful. She said, at 9 o'clock this morning, we had ducks. Now we have a cow, and we have 2 sheep, and we have a goat, and we have tractors, and we have games, and the weather is perfect. This is going to be so good. In this world where time is money, It's easy to feel like simple conversation is a waste of valuable time. In a world where individual freedom is championed, it's easy to feel like taking time to do something for someone else without thought of reward is being taken advantage of. In this world of separation, it's easy to feel like it is not worth it to figure out how to make the connection. It's too much energy to pick up the phone or do whatever we need to do to reach out. Each of you took a step to join us here today, whether you're online or you're here in person. You invested in this time for social and spiritual connection. You didn't have to. I suspect it would have been easy not to. But relationships take time, they take work, they take intention. It's not easy at the best of times, and these are not the best of times. And we know that sometimes our relationships are not great. We get hurt or disappointed by our friends. Sometimes people let us down. Sometimes they let us down without even knowing it. And we can do exactly the same thing with those in our circle without thinking sometimes, or because we are unhappy or we're cranky, which, this time in the world makes us particularly susceptible to. It's easy to do, to hurt those who care about us. It takes great courage and strength to repair. But Paul wrote to his friends in Corinth and said, you need each other. You need each other because you're all different. Have some patience with each other because each of you brings gifts to this community. Think of it like a body with a lot of different parts, and you are but one. An ear by itself is not going very far. A foot by itself is going to have trouble seeing where it's going. But you are connected. You are meant to be connected. When one part suffers, everybody suffers. When one part celebrates, it's good for all of us. So over the next couple of months, let's consider what connections are important to us. What connections are possible. How we will encourage and make connections, particularly in an ever-lingering pandemic when our care for other people requires us to be careful. How can we channel whatever energy we've got into the connections that matter? We'll specifically return to this theme a couple of times before the end of November, but I would invite you to carry it with you, because that kind of connection is at the heart of faith. I would argue that Jesus would even say it's at the heart of salvation. But for now, let's simply remember and be grateful that we do not have to be. In fact, we are not alone. Thanks be to God. Amen.